are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, may result in removal from the meeting. The meeting of the Public Safety Finance Strategic Support Committee will now come to order. Can the clerk's office please call the roll?
Batra?
Present.
Torres?
Present.
Kamei?
Present.
Vice Chair Duan? Chair Jimenez?
Present.
Thank you.
And Vice Chair Duan said he's running a few minutes late, an emergency, so he should be here shortly. Before we begin, let me just recognize Jennifer Shembry, who we're used to seeing in a different role, but she's sitting here in the presenter's box today. She was recently promoted to the position of Deputy City Manager and will be taking over for Lee Wilcox starting in October, which we're very excited about. I'm kidding, Lee. Which big shoes to fill, but we're glad to have you, Jennifer. And so she's going to be the representative from the city manager. And so thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to say a few words.
Oh, no, thank you. I look forward to serving you in this capacity.
Thank you. Wonderful. And then we also, I know, have a new representative from the mayor's office. Emily Munguia will be the new representative from his office. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi, Emily. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item B, which is review of work plan. I don't see anything under that. We'll go to C, which is consent calendar, or sorry. Give me 1 second, yeah. C, which is consent calendar. Go ahead.
This is the work plan. There was recently a work plan addition suggested to this group from the rules, and I'm not seeing that here.
Councilor Batra, can you remind me what item that was?
Oh, yeah. I had actually suggested the illegal fireworks study session in the council, and I wasn't there at the rules, but my memo was submitted, and they passed it on as a work plan update to the FISBIS. Right?
Okay, I think Lee Wilcox is going to speak to that.
Yes, the council member is correct. That did pass by the Rules Committee. So either a future meeting, the September, or when we amend the work plan through the Rules Committee for January through June, we're going to add it on to those. So we're just trying to figure out when PD and fire will be done with all their data collection and what's an appropriate date. So you should see that coming forward.
And I would say, just for everyone's information, the way it typically has traditionally happened, and I assume is going to continue to happen with Jennifer, is that she and the chair, we meet periodically and talk about the work plan, see if there's anything that needs to be added or removed or moved to a different date. And so I assume this is going to be part of those conversations. Okay. So we'll make sure to include it as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. But there is officially nothing on the work plan item B, so we'll move forward with the consent calendar. There's nothing on consent, so we'll jump in straight to the reports of the committee. And the first one, if folks can make their way down, we have Rick Bruno, Finance Director, John Kachmanian, Deputy Director of Finance, and Albi Udom, Deputy Director of Finance, fourth quarter financial reports, fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you, Chair, for the introduction. My name is Rick Bruno, Director of Finance, and I will kick us off by covering the debt management and the investment management sections of the report, and then I'll pass it over to John Kashmanian, who will run through the revenue management section, and Albie will finish off with our purchasing and risk section. So as it relates to our city's debt portfolio, this chart represents the city's outstanding debt issued between 2014 and 2024. As you can see, looking at the column 2024, our outstanding debt as of the end of the fiscal year was $4.4 billion. In this past fiscal year, we issued $145 million. This graph shows the breakout of the direct outstanding debt. The $3.6 billion portfolio consists of outstanding airport, successor agency to the redevelopment agency, wastewater, general obligation, and other financing authority debt. Next, I'll highlight a few debt issuance activities completed in the fourth quarter. The first three items, the regional wastewater facility, the financing authority for the Parks and Recreation Neighborhood Services Department, and the airport all had short-term borrowings through their commercial paper programs. The team has also been working diligently on a California Community Choice Financing Authority bond issuance for our San Jose Clean Energy Department. That will come before council in the fall, but we've been doing a lot of the work in terms of prepping the finance. This slide lists the debt management activities for the fourth quarter. One item that I'd like to call out, the second to the last bullet, which notes the initial ratings for the San Jose Clean Energy Department. They earned an A2 and an A rating from Moody's and S&P respectively. This is the initial and first rating that they received through the agencies. So this was a big effort amongst a number of departments to be successful in getting these ratings. Continuing with some of the completed work of the debt management team, we've executed the following consulting agreements. We've executed an agreement with BLX Group for our arbitrage rebate private activity analysis and state Senate Bill SB 1029 reporting that we're required to do on an annual basis for compliance. We also executed a contract with Fieldman Rollup and Associates. This is to provide municipal advisory services related to the Berryessa Community Facilities District, which they'll be helping us along with other departments in the formation of that CFD. In terms of the upcoming debt issuance through the third quarter, the city has already completed the extension of our airport commercial paper agreement with the Bank of America. We executed that in July, and that extends our agreement for an additional 2 years. We also closed the refunding of an airport revenue bonds, which we had brought to council in April, but due to the changes in interest rates at that time, we weren't able to execute right away. So we needed to wait for interest rates to come back in our favor so that we can realize the minimum net present value savings on those bonds. And so in July, we were able to lock that rate and realize a savings of 3.3% or $2.5 million on those refunded bonds. And we officially closed that bond issuance in July. We also anticipate having commercial paper issuance and remarketing of the airport paper during this quarter. And as noted earlier, we will have the clean energy prepay financing agreement coming before council in the fall. The next couple of slides provide the trend line of the long-term GO bond index. So currently, this represents what the borrowing would be for our agency if we were to go to market at 2.95% on a long-term general obligation bond. Short-term rates have been held flat at 5.25%, and as you can see, they are. It's been flat for over a year, and in the market, there's talks of a potential Fed rate cut, but you'll see that in future reports if that is the case. The next few slides represent our credit ratings as compared to other agencies. I'll note that across all of these, none of our ratings have changed in the past quarter, so everything has been stable. We've had a few rating surveillance that we've gone through with the credit ratings, and nothing has been changed. We've had affirmed ratings and no change in the outlook. So with that, I will then turn to the investment area and run through a few slides here. So per the city's investment policy, investments must conform with the California Government Code. There's a specific section of the code that has parameters and criteria for which the city can invest in. The city's only allowed to invest in highly rated fixed income securities, and the policy is reviewed annually and was last adopted in March of this year. The program is also audited on a semi-annual basis by our external auditor for compliance purposes. In terms of our investment objectives, our city's policy is to ensure safety as the number one objective, is that we don't realize any losses on our securities that we hold. Liquidity, ensuring that we are able to liquidate and have free cash flow to meet our obligations. And finally, the yield. And so that's the return that we can expect from the securities that we hold. Reports are available online as well as in the council materials. I call this the bottom line slide because this is the work that the team has done throughout the fiscal year. And you'll note that across the entire portfolio, we almost reached $3 billion in terms of all the cash that we are investing and holding, $2.962 billion. We earned an interest yield of just over 3.6%, and the net income interest earned for the year was $86.65 million for the year. So credit to the team. I think that's a record in terms of what we've been able to earn, and obviously with elevated interest rates, we're able to take advantage of that. While it's more challenging on the debt issuance side to realize savings, on the investment side, it's great. So the team in the investment are happy when the interest rates are higher because they could see a higher yield there. In terms of how our portfolio is made up, the 2.9 million, the majority of our portfolio is invested in U.S. agency bonds. We also have a number of corporate notes we invest in, mortgage-backed securities, U.S. treasuries, but again, all these are fixed income securities. In terms of the investments by fund, the 2.9 billion is made up of the various funds of the city that are holding cash. So the general fund there, wastewater, clean energy, airport, they all have cash that they need for their operations, and while they are not spending it, we as a team invest it as one pool of investments. So in terms of the general fund specifically and how the balance has shifted over the past quarter, it increased by 290 million, and that's related to the receipt of property taxes in June. Typically, we see a spike in January and June when we receive our property tax from the county. And then last note there in the bullet is that projected cash flow is sufficient to cover anticipated expenditures for the next 6 months. This line chart compares those cash balances over the past 2 years. So you can see there's variability within the general fund, more so than the others, and that is because we rely heavily on those large influxes of revenue from property tax, from sales tax, which are spread throughout the year. And while we have relatively even expenditures, in July is a period where we have historically pre-funded our parts of our retirement fund. So we'll usually see a reduction in our cash flow in July. From a benchmarking perspective, again, we realized a return of 3.7% return yield on our investments. This exceeds the 2.75% rate of return included in last year's budget. So we are ahead of the curve in terms of realizing interest earned on our portfolio. And finally, I'll just bring us back to our investment strategy, is that we continue to match our expenditures with the maturity of our investments over the next 2 years to ensure we have liquidity of cash flow. When we have the opportunity, we will go beyond that 2-year period to try to realize a higher yield and to capture some of those, especially as financial markets are projecting Fed rate cuts. Stepping out further and getting longer-term bonds can lock in some of those higher interest rates for a longer term, which will help the portfolio in the long run. We'll continue to maintain a diversified portfolio, and then getting back to our core objectives are to maintain safety, liquidity, and yield. So we'll continue to evaluate the securities we invest in based upon those factors. So at this point, I will turn it over to John to run us through the revenue management section.
Thanks, Rick. Good afternoon, PISFIS Committee. John Kachmani, Deputy Director of Finance, Revenue Management, and I'll be presenting our revenue management report for the previous quarter and fiscal year. The revenue management team's charter is to collect on outstanding receivables, reduce delinquencies, and ensure compliance across our revenue programs, which include accounts receivable invoices, business tax certificates, taxpayer compliance and monitoring, which involves audits and ongoing tracking and collections activities, and utilities, which include water, sewer, and garbage. In FY 22-23, total citywide revenue was $4.749 billion. The largest citywide revenue sources were our capital fund at $805 million, a $63 million year-over-year increase. Our airport fund was $491 million, and that increased 16% year-over-year. Property tax was $449 million, up 8% year-over-year, and San Jose Clean Energy came in at $521 million, which was a 30% year-over-year increase. Revenue management programs overall comprise 29% of citywide revenue at $1.38 billion. This chart shows invoices billed and payments collected through our business tax, accounts receivable, and utility billing programs. In FY 22-23, we collected 95.4%, representing $652 million. Total Q4 receivables, which includes current and delinquent amounts owed, increased 8% versus the prior quarter, and that went from around $76 million to about $82 million, and current or non-delinquent receivables increased 72% from about $22 million to $38 million, with most of this amount attributable to a single large invoice. Delinquent receivables decreased 18.1%, from around $54 million to about $44 million, and business tax and accounts receivable write-offs and the resumption of water shutoffs for non-payment of delinquent water bills were key drivers of this decrease. As referenced previously, total current or not yet due receivables are about $38 million, with about $44 million in delinquent receivables. In addition, our collection agency receivables decreased by approximately 36%, or around $7 million from the prior quarter, due largely to write-offs. We track our return on investment, dividing the delinquent revenue collected by our investigator collectors by their salary and benefits cost. For Q4, at 3.88 to 1, ROI fell below our 5 to 1 target across our business tax and accounts receivable teams. We attributed this decrease to several factors, which included our investigative collectors began working on a new collection program, which involved franchise tax board data, which required significant ramp-up time. And the results of that effort should materialize in future quarters. In addition, a large one-time data cleanup effort within our accounts receivable invoicing system consumed resources from our investigative collector staff this quarter, and we also lost one investigator collector due to a budget reduction, which reduced our capacity to collect. This concludes my, one more. Oh, finally, the revenue compliance revenue recovery slide shows that the efforts of our revenue compliance monitoring team, they perform audits and revenue recovery across a range of tax and fee programs, and very notably, they collected about $2 million across these programs in Q4, so we're really proud of that effort. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. I am Albi Udom, Deputy Director of Finance in charge of Purchasing and Risk Management, and I will walk you through the slides for Purchasing and Risk Management. So the purchasing program in the city is responsible for the centralized procurement of all supplies, materials, information technology, equipment, and non-consulting services. In FY24, the division conducted 114 competitive solicitations for these services and commodities. And we issued 2,027 purchase orders for a full procurement amount of 460 million. I'm sorry about that. 460 million in procurement. The risk management program is responsible for the procurement and oversight of all cities' property and casualty insurance programs, providing contractual risk management services, property subrogation claims, reporting, and other key services to city departments. Again, in FY24, the division reviewed 1,300 contract specifications, contract insurance specifications, 744 insurance compliance reviews, and collected about 471,000 in subrogation for losses to the city. With that, I will turn it back to Rick to close up.
So that concludes our presentation. We're happy to entertain any questions and then also have a cross referral to the full council for September 10th. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We'll go and see if we have any public comment before we come.
There is no public comment.
Okay, no public comment. We'll bring it back to the committee. Let me just see who's raised their hands. Councilmember Torres has questions.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation. Very thorough, by the way. A lot of information to take in. My question has to do more with about investing. What does our portfolio look like? What do we invest in?
Yes, we invest in fixed securities, which means bonds. The majority of our holdings is in U.S. Treasuries and U.S. agency securities. So that could be other U.S. government-backed securities. That's the majority of it. We also have certain investments in corporate notes. So there can be corporations that issue their own bonds, which will purchase their bonds as well. We have a strict policy in terms of the investment quality, which we are willing to invest in. So they need to meet certain ratings in order for us to invest in them. And we have a thorough process which we go through and review annually to ensure that those that we have investments in, that whether we keep them on the list or also if we want to evaluate adding additional credits to our list of that we can invest in. So,
okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks, Rick. And when it comes to corporations that were investing in their bonds, what's the difference between investing in the corporation and investing in their corporate bonds? Is that the same thing?
No, there's a difference. So investing in a bond is they're selling debt to raise capital. Corporations have two ways of raising debt. They could sell bonds, which is their debt, which we, in this instance, will purchase a fixed dollar amount from, and they'll pay us back interest throughout the term of that maturity, and then at the end of the maturity, they pay us back the full par amount, or the full principal amount. So that is one way a corporation can finance their operations. Another one is by selling their equity, and that's on the stock market where they sell equity shares. The city is not allowed to invest in equities, and we cannot investing our funds there. So it's only on fixed income where the risk is much lower than in the equity market.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then my next question, my follow-up is going to be, are any of these corporations where we're buying their debt, I'm assuming? I think that's how I heard it. Do we have a city policy where we don't invest in corporations like tobacco companies or oil and coal companies or corporations who, spend money on manufacturing guns or ammo or weapons of mass destruction, I should say, not they're weapons of mass destruction, right? So do we make sure that we don't invest in those companies?
We have an investment policy that dictates what we can invest in. I think there's one provision in there, and I'm trying to find it here. I don't have it in front of me, where there are some restrictions on which corporations we can invest in. Happy to look that up. It's within our investment policy, which is a published document. I could share that with you offline. Or if
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, can we actually send that out to the full committee? Because I do know there's restrictions, and we've amended that, I think, within the past, I would say 5 years to include something else. So I don't know it off the top of my head either, but that's certainly something that Rick can follow up with the committee on.
Great, no, and I think it's maybe time to relook at that because I wasn't here 5 years ago. So, I know that we have good corporations and we have bad corporations, right? But I don't want us investing in corporate debt, where we know that that's going to be harmful to all of our communities, right? So thank you for that, by the way. And then the last question is regarding our business tax. I know that San Francisco, Oakland, a few other major cities have reformed their business tax. And for our Chamber of Commerce people and all the business interests that are listening to our PISPIS meeting, I'm just asking this question because they seem to get rattled up a lot of the times when we talk about reforming our business tax license. Have we thought about modifying our business tax license or how we do our business tax? I know some major cities are doing that are helpful for the small businesses, not obviously the corporations, speaking about corporations.
So I can share what we've done in the past. I believe it was 2016 where there was a business tax modernization that went to the ballot. That was a change that not only adjusted the rates, but it also built in a go-forward CPI increase to the rates so that we can stay up with inflation. At that point, I think it moved revenue from about $12 million a year up to $24 million a year, and I think we're getting closer to $30 million a year now. So there was a modernization that took place, I guess now 8 years ago. I believe it could be something, Lee, that we roll into the broader revenue enhancement discussion and analysis.
Yeah, Rick is absolutely right on the history, so that was spot on for sure. We also, it's switched to a progressive tax model, I would say, in that formula, whereas you pay a greater amount for more employees that you have, so it tries to help some of our smaller businesses. I would say the administration definitely believes that the business tax, as well as all the other things that were mentioned in the budget process, is part of our mission to kind of look at and bring back options for the council to explore. And we'd obviously, weight that against any possible, pitfalls in economic strategy as well, which we would need to lay all of that out for you guys.
Yeah, and I asked because obviously we all know that 2016 is before the pandemic, right? And what we're seeing is, again, there's good and bad corporations. We see a lot of corporations making a whole lot of money because they don't have to, as a downtown council member, they don't need to rent office space, so they don't have a lot of overhead. And so, they have a lot of people working from home, and then we have small businesses who are struggling to stay open or open in downtown especially because of the ramifications of the pandemic. And so, again, in 2016, I wasn't here. I was a staffer for the city. But maybe it's time to rethink that because the world has been upended by the pandemic, and we definitely need to do everything in our power to make sure that our small businesses excel in our city of San Jose, right? And of course, our corporations, when they're ready to come to, some of them are here, but when they're ready to come to work in downtown San Jose. So, all right. And then with that, I move to cross-reference this to the September 10th City Council meeting. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Oh, yeah, is there?
Vice Mayor Camejo, second. She's next to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I know that we always look at, the amount of debt issuance that was done, and then you mentioned the upcoming one. And, I thought that our, sort of the climate for issuing debt right now is not favorable. And so is this something that we have to do now? Or I was just wondering because, supposedly the rates will change in September. Everyone is sort of like thinking that the feds will do something. So I was just curious as to how you balance the need to issue debt when, the climate really isn't as favorable.
Thank you for that question. I'll try not to get too far into the weeds on this upcoming
Sorry.
transaction, but the transaction that we're working on is a prepay agreement with a counterparty for which the city's going to take advantage of tax-exempt arbitrage between what a corporation can borrow at a taxable rate and what the city can borrow at a tax-exempt rate. So the absolute position of where the tax rate is or interest rates are, whether they're at 5.25% now or whether they're at 2%, that there's still going to be a difference between taxable and tax-exempt rates, and that's where we're going to take advantage of for this particular borrowing. This is a very unique and special borrowing that we're working on with clean energy.
Okay.
That other CCAs have taken advantage of this opportunity to save some money. So I don't think that the absolute where interest rates are now factors into that. I think it's more about the yield between the two rates, which is important.
Okay, that sounds good. All righty, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I don't see any.
There's one more thing. There's one more thing. Just because it only comes on a quarterly basis, sometimes, like there's a bunch of other stuff that comes before us, and sometimes we don't remember. Sometimes I don't remember. But so, in the cases where you have demonstrated what the trend is, in other slides, you kind of like show a trend. And I think that that's very helpful because it shows where you've been and where we're going. And so if there's any opportunity in the future to do that with your information, I think it's going to be helpful to be able to kind of like see as we move along, since it only comes to us on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seems like those are all the questions we have. I just had one very simple question. I was looking for the slide as you were continuing to present. There was a word in one of the slides, I think it said, it was referred to as remarketing. Does that sound familiar? I was wondering if that was the same as refunding or refinancing. Is that, maybe I remember.
Yes, that's a unique term in the commercial paper.
But is that the same sort of concept?
It is. For commercial paper, it's a short-term borrowing. You can only borrow it for 270 days or less, and after that period lapses, you need to remarket it or basically refund or reissue it. But it's on a very small, narrow, related to our commercial paper program.
All right, thank you. Some of this is educating us, unfortunately. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. There's a motion and a second to send it off to cross-reference to the September 10th council meeting. Go ahead and take a vote now.
Are you guys able to see that on your end, the voting?
No, nothing.
Okay, I think the Taden's down right now. It's not working at the moment. Did you want me to take a verbal vote?
Yeah, we can take a verbal vote.
Batra?
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Kamei, Duan,
Yes.
and Jimenez.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to item 2, which is the Police Department Recruitment and Hiring Activity Annual Report. We have Police Lieutenant Mike Bowie and Deputy Police Chief Brian Schaap. You can start whenever you're ready.
Do we have the slide up? All right, good afternoon, Chairperson, committee members, and members of the public. I am Mike Bowie, currently Lieutenant of the San Jose Police Department's Recruiting Unit, and I'm here to present on the Police Department Recruitment and Hiring Activity Report. So the top graph shows the last 7 years of sworn applications. So in fiscal year 23 to 24, we had 2,197 applications, and the previous fiscal year we had 2,223, which is 26 less and about a 1% decrease. In February of 24, we lost our advertising partner, and so since February, we haven't had any digital advertising. But we are onboarding a new company, and we should start that up very soon. Also, in fiscal year 23-24, we hired 108 officers, and the previous fiscal year, we hired 75, so we have an increase of 46% officers getting hired. The chart below shows applications versus hiring percentage. So San Jose Police Academy classes 33 to 35, we've had 3,000, 2,000, 3,700 applications with a higher rate of 2% to 1.5%. And the three classes, SJ 48, 49, and 50, we've had a lot less applications, but hiring percentage of 5 and 4%. This is our target audience that we're hoping to attract, people who pursue a career in law enforcement, personal alignment with our core values, diversity, women, athletes, college students and graduates, and military personnel. And below is our recruitment advertising platforms, so majority of social media. We also had a billboard at the San Jose Giants Stadium and billboards in Central Valley and Northern California. And a couple of weeks ago, NBC Bay Area, and then yesterday, Univision came out and did a story about us hiring female applicants at our Wednesday Night Fitness. This is our demographics for our academy. So the SJ 48, 49, and 50. So SJ 48, we started with 30 recruits with 4 females and graduated 24 recruits. San Jose 49, the current senior class started with 38 recruits with 5 females, and we currently have 24 recruits. The junior class started, SJ 50 started with 34 recruits with 5 females, and currently we have 29 recruits. So in February of 2021, the PISFIS committee asked the department to provide demographic information annually as part of this report, and then this is the 4th report containing that. So our department, we strive for diversity, which mirrors the makeup of our city, and according to the July 2023 U.S. Census population estimates, here's the breakdown between the city and our department. The city has 38% Asian, the department has 13% Asian, the city has 31% Hispanic or Latino, we have 22% in the department. The city has 24% white, the department has 32%, and then the city has 3% African American, the department has 3%, and then we're right on track with the American Indian and Hawaiian Pacific Islander. Overall, the department has 13% female with 87% male. We are trying to boost our female applicants. We signed on the 30 by 30 initiative, and in October 19th, we are hosting a Women in Law Enforcement event. I know Vice Mayor Kamei, you attended the last one. You're welcome to come back. We're going to host a series of workout boot camps before and after the event to help the FEMA applicants learn the workouts and get stronger. Communications applications. So for fiscal year 23-24, we had 958, and the previous fiscal year we had 862. So the last 3 years we have an uptake. As of May of this, the fiscal year of 23-24, we have 11 vacancies in communications. The previous fiscal year we had 22.5, and the previous fiscal year for that was 29.5. So we reduced communications vacancies by 51% and 63% respectively. And below is just some of the communication recruiting efforts. So the recruiting unit is also responsible for hiring of records and CSO recruitment. And as of May, all records personnel and CSO positions have been fulfilled. Any questions?
We have a few, because I could already see the lights light up, but we'll go to see if we have any public comment. I suspect not. But
We have no public comment.
okay, no public comment. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me go to the screen. It seems like Councilmember Batra is the first one, so please.
You'd expect that on this one. Thank you very much for the report, and especially I like the breakdown which you provided on the gender and the ethnicity. So today, how many vacancies are left from our total number 1176?
We're down, I think, right around 100 vacancies.
100 vacancies?
For sworn, yes.
Okay. And do we share information on how many officers may be on disability or not available for field work?
Yes.
We do share that?
I have that if you would like. So out of 1,073 filled positions, 40 are in the FTO program, 58 are recruits in the academy, 26 are on disability, 37 are on modified duty, 26 are on other types of leave. So that leaves us with 886 street ready officers out of 1,073.
Okay. And how many have retired this year?
We had a total of 112 separations, whether that's retirement or termination.
Okay, all right. And are we currently in the process of recruiting people for the next academy?
The recruiting cycle is always open. We don't close.
Okay. And when do we expect the next academy to be?
We have 2 academy classes going right now. The senior class graduate September 13th, and the next class will start in mid-October.
Okay. And is the cadet program which we started, is that beginning to show results in terms of bringing more officers online?
We are seeing more cadets apply to the police department, and I got to give all the credit to the people who handle that program, because we hold events, and I've never seen so many cadets show up and help us out. So that all the credit goes to Sergeant Twiley and Officer Al Hernandez.
Okay. And are the things looking now more optimistic in terms of being able to reduce our total vacancies in the coming months, or the coming quarters, rather?
I believe October, we sent 114 to backgrounds, but we hired 24. So we're getting higher numbers, but we're disqualifying more. So unfortunately, I see a pattern of, because I have to sign up on the disqualifications, and it's just minor things like not turning in paperwork on a timely manner. So we'll temporarily disqualify them for the next cycle, but we'll hopefully get them through. But the February class should be a lot higher.
Okay, all right. Okay, now I make the motion to accept the report. Do we need to cross-reference?
No, no need to
Okay,
cross-reference.
all right.
Go motion in a second.
Thank you very much for the report, and keep up the good work of keep hiring more and bring the vacancies one of these days to zero.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to Councilmember Torres, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for, oh, my microphone is falling. Sorry. All right. Thank you so much for the presentation, especially when it comes to recruiting women to our force. I think that's extremely important. I do have a few questions.
Yes.
And maybe this is actually, I know I come from an educational background. I served on numerous school boards, so when I see that we don't have a 100% graduation rate, that's actually for us on the school board side is very scary. But I know that we want to get the best of the best to be in uniform, and so I am a little bit concerned about Class 49 or academic class. Is that SJ 49? I don't know. It's
SJ 49, yes.
Okay, thank you. SJ 49. We started off with 38 recruits, and we're only currently at 24?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
So 14 people dropped out or left or
I believe 4. So when you take a test in the academy and you fail, you have one chance to make that up. 4 failed twice, so they were terminated because of academic, but the rest resigned.
Okay.
For various reasons, pursuing school, or they realized it wasn't for them.
Okay, which is a good thing, right? Because we want the best of the best, right? So in that case, maybe it's a question way above your head. Mine too, by the way. So how do we get the graduation rate to be 100% for our cadets? Because I know that we're trying to close the gap, right? Remember, I've worked for the city of San Jose when we actually used to have 1,700 folks on our police force. Now it's very sad that we're only down to 886, right? It's a concern. I think many of us go to neighborhood association meetings where our residents complain about burglaries and car break-ins and et cetera, right? And again, thank you to our police department for always being out there and protecting our community, even with being short-staffed. So how do we get to 100%?
I'll take that question, Councilmember. Thank you very much. It's difficult. I think we have to look at a lot of things. And first, I guess I'd start with that historically, and I'm going to go back 25 years when I started the academy, is folks sign on to this job, maybe not always realizing what they're signing up for. And so you have a tendency to have a lot higher washout rate from voluntarily resigning than you do failing. The second thing I would say is that the standards are very rigorous and set by the state of California, and we have to meet those standards. The recruits have to meet those standards, and they have to demonstrate it through a series of tests, whether it be written or scenario-based tests. And that's not something that we really have control over, and they're difficult. And they're difficult for a reason, because it's a difficult job. And so the academy is the place where we want to find out whether or not they can do the job on the street. And so I think there's a little bit of a difference between education in the public sector or at elementary school or grade school levels and the police academy. Is we're using the academy not just to train, but to find out whether or not the job is for them. And so I would love to see 100% graduation rate in the academies, and it's not that we don't try to get there, but I do think there is a purpose behind having rigorous testing and trying to figure out whether or not it's for them. I can tell you that every recruit that shows signs of struggling with different aspects of the job, they get every opportunity and lots of support to be able to get them through those challenges. But at the end of the day, they have to be able to do these very specific tasks.
Can I add on that? So we did have concern with 49 with the rate of resignation. So normally the separation from recruitment from training, that's a totally separate unit. But what we're going to implement is we have a female recruiter she is going to go talk to the female applicants in the academy. Just a one-on-one session without any TAC officers, any command staff, so they can voice anything they want to talk about it to our officer with. And we're going to start doing that same thing with the other applicants also, just so they can express their feelings and talk about what's going on. So.
Okay, no, that's a good start. As for the demographics, and I'm sure Councilmember Duan will speak on it. I do see that we increased our representation of Latinos in the police force, which is great. It's amazing. I have friends whose kids are police officers. But I did see a really, and I think we mentioned it in the last time that we were here. I did see a huge drop off of our Asian American representation. I mean, it was like the drastic, and I know it's because it's smaller. Some academies are smaller, but I think we just need to continue to hammer in and work with our Asian American organizations to get folks to come and join the academy, because obviously we are the city of San Jose and the most diverse, right? But I can assure you that 62% of the San Jose is not Latino, so we do want Asian American representation. So I know you guys are going to work on that, but I'm sure Councilmember Duan is going to bring it up once he speaks. And then the other one is do we even internally? I'm sorry, I know I'm talkative today. Even internally.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for doing your job, Mr. Chair. We have, even internally, do we have a pipeline within our own city departments for folks to become police officers? I mean, I think I've been employed in this organization for over 25 years, and in those 25 years, it's always been we're short-staffed. Is there a pipeline, not only for our city departments, but I don't know, with our military, our veterans organizations, our community college? I don't know. Do we have a pipeline?
We actually signed a contract with the Army PACE program to help transitioning soldiers into jobs. So what we guarantee is we'll give them an interview. That's what we guarantee the Army. So we're doing that. As far as our pipeline, we work
just the Army?
They're the only one that has that program, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But we have a recruiter who is an Air Force Academy graduate, so we've been doing a lot of military bases, Air Force, there's one up north from here. So we actually have 2 recruiters in Camp Pendleton right now, today. So.
Okay, great. And then I have called, I know I'm a council member, and I call 911 when I need to, and I've called 911 a couple times, so I've been put on hold, even as a council member. Of course, they're not gonna know that I'm calling, right, and I'm a council member, but for the fact of the matter that we still have 10 dispatchers who need to get hired, I think count on us to get those hired, because again, the 2 times I did call were emergencies and I got placed on hold. So we do see the need for our dispatchers to be hired quickly. So however we can do, whatever we can do to be supportive. So
historically, I think the past several years were always 30 to 20 vacancies. So getting down to 10, I got to give credit to the communications recruiter. They're doing a fantastic job to get it down to 10. But yes, absolutely, we want to fill those 10.
Yeah.
And if I could just chime in really quick, again, council member, regarding the pipeline, just so that everyone is aware, we really do have a really distinct focus on trying to recruit from within the city of San Jose. We talk about having representation of our community. Well, there's no better representation of our community than our community, right? So we really focus on trying to bring folks in, and that's where our efforts for the cadet program is absolutely one of our long-term pipelines, right? It takes years to develop them from cadets to police officers, but we also use programs like our CSO program to be a pipeline, where folks maybe just aren't quite ready to join the police department as an officer, but they might be ready to join as a CSO, get some experience there, and then transition them into the police department. And so we have those types of internal pipelines as well as internships from colleges that we try to heavily recruit to become full-time officers. As a matter of fact, that's where I started.
Great. Thank you, and I'm out of time. Those actually no more questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for the presentation. You know, I think that sometimes the awareness of all of the great job opportunities are not as, you know, sort of visible. I know that there's been more that's being done, and thank you for doing more in terms of recruitment, retention, and all of that, and outreach. But I still think that there's a mystery when people talk about San Jose PD. It's sort of, oh, I don't want to be an officer. But there are also CSO positions, there are dispatcher positions, there are other things that, you know, don't really come to mind. And I think that, you know, greater emphasis on, you know, these other things. Yes, we need officers. Absolutely, absolutely. We should do everything necessary for that. But I also think that it could be, you know, talking about a pipeline, it could be an entryway to understanding law enforcement and seeing what it is and what it is not. Because I think that sometimes we have a preconceived idea of, you know, a career in law enforcement, and you know, if you start out, you know, in a different position, then you could have better information on what it is and whether it's for you or not. So I hope that you're just as aggressively recruiting in the other areas. It's a little bit, the way the information is presented, it's a little bit sort of like, you got the sworn, you have the overall, and then you have the communications, and it'd be nice to, in future presentations, maybe have it so that it's a little bit more comprehensive, so that you can see these are the opportunities in sworn, these are the opportunities in dispatch, these are the opportunities for ZSOs, you know, and I think that sort of like talking about it in a different way could perhaps be helpful to some who, you know, think of just one thing when it comes to PD. So I think that maybe that's worth trying. So that's my suggestion. And in terms of you know, your upcoming boot camp, oh, I'd love to go. It's absolutely wonderful, and I think that sharing that in many different ways is much more helpful. The stories of the panel that was there last year, fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I think that we don't toot our horn as much, and I think you need to do that. You know, don't be shy, because I think that their stories are what's going to get people in the door. And, you know, just listening to how many women who have had a good career in law enforcement, you know, have families, have other things going on, and somehow, some way, they've been able to be very successful. And I think that it's good for others to see those examples, because if you can't see yourself or someone in there that's like you, then, you know, it's sort of like you don't make that connection. So I think that doing more of that and amplifying it, you know, hey, if you send me a story like that, I'll put it in my newsletter. Every one of us will put it in our newsletter and say, look, right? So I think that being a little bit more creative and aggressive and using us, you know, to help amplify what's needed in the department would be very, very helpful in the long run. I also want to, you know, I'm committed to the 30 by 30, and I'd like to know how do we need to track to be successful at the end of the day? I know it's a pledge, but if you don't sort of like take steps to say, okay, we need to be here by 2025, we need to be here by 2026. You know, it's sort of like, it's like a hockey stick. By the time you get to 2029, it's like, oops, right? How much work has been done? So, you know, I think that that sort of like pushes a little bit, you know, to be able to help us all get to where we want to go. So we could talk offline on that one, but I certainly commit to helping and doing whatever I can to make us all successful in achieving that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councilmember Duan.
Thank you, Chair. thank you to the police department and all your hard work. And it was sad to hear, one of these CSO has passed due to, a drunk driver. That's very concerning. But overall, I think, Vice Mayor stated pretty clear, and I'm sure you have that in your strategic plan of having a goal, implementation, and see the outcome. And it's very, and you prioritize that depend on your needs. I would imagine you have that type of strategic plan within the department in order to recruit both more women and also Asian onto the department. Is that correct? I would imagine so.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. And is one of the biggest problems that we have here, obviously, the cost of living. Is your department working, or at least looking for ways to, like, different banks in order to maybe zero down program that would help the recruitment, the retention, to take the burden of living in such a high cost area?
Yes, we actually partnered with our police foundation and the housing initiative, where they will give subsidized housing to recruits in the academy and up to a year after. There are certain income requirements, and after you graduate in a certain year on the department, they go over the threshold, so that's why they're allowed as a recruit to rent an apartment up to a year after graduation. But yes, we do have that.
And would you agree that Tier 2 has caused some of the recruitment problems?
Thank you, Councilmember. I appreciate the question. I think there's a lot of things that are causing the national recruitment, problems that, certainly we're seeing locally, but the nation is. I think you could probably trace some of those certainly back to pension reform that happened throughout the state of California. And certainly looking at what happened in 2020, trying to recruit post 2020 has been challenging. But so I think there's lots of things that we could point to that are challenging, and that's certainly going to be one of them.
Thank you. And do you have the stat of, from your cadets program or your CSO have, graduate to become a CSO, and CSO become a police officer, in a sense? What is the percentage?
Unfortunately, I don't have that, but I know several CSOs since I've been there have become police officers. I can count 4 in my hand, but then cadets, we have Deputy Chief Jimenez, who was a cadet, and we have several cadets who are in the department now. And we're actually mentoring several of them. They're going off to college right now, but we're hoping when they come back, they'll join our department. But we keep those relationships, and they come back during the summer. Like, we had cadets in the summertime that were going off to college, and they're like, "I'll be back when I get out of school," and hopefully we keep them in the pipeline.
Okay. Do you have a very specific succession plan for example, the CSO who want to become a police officer, right? This is what you need to do, and a checklist, if you will, in order to become a full-fledged?
Yes, I believe Captain Spears is actually having the FTO office conduct scenario practices for any CSOs who's interested, just so they can see that side of the job. But yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I'm just going to go back a little bit on the Asian recruitment. And I believe the number of Asian American here in the city of San Jose is closer to 40%. And just seeing, the percentage doesn't represent. So can you tell me what can you do in the future that is different from what you're doing now in order to recruit more Asian American into the department?
If you look at the percentage for San Jose 48 and 49, we're at 32% Asian in those classes. So, but going forward, definitely, I think like we talked this last time, is culturally, police department isn't really something that the parents want the kids to do. So what we started doing in the recruiting unit is we hosted a spouse parent night for applicants to have their parents and their spouses go. We do it on Zoom, and then we have our spouses talk to them about the job and what they encountered throughout the years. So I think that's helped tremendously, but definitely we're going to focus more on Asian recruitment. You know, Lieutenant Kenny Tran has been a great help with that for me, so yes.
Yeah, I understand the percentage is pretty high as you know, the recent class graduation. But the overall number, I think we can pretty much agree is dismal for the amount of representation. And I think from the first generation or fresh off the boat, a lot of people don't want their children to be a police officer or firefighters. But as you know, we're into the third, fourth, even fifth generation, they now look at it differently. And I think, how do we change just the dynamic of thinking officer now is a you know, it's not a job that people want. I think we have to change that. For example, in firefighting, years ago, you know, we didn't have the equipment, we didn't have the program to prevent cancer, we didn't have a lot of different programs to keep you really safe. Now we have, you know, each firefighter have 2 turnout. As soon as they're going to a fire, they can put that turnout into get it clean, and 3 days later to get it back. They have wipes that wipe down the carcinogen. The captain would say, we're going to be out of service for an hour to you know, take a shower to prevent cancer, and we have great SCBA, we have voice comm. Those are things that the advancement in the fire service, and I would imagine in the police department as well, right? And I think if we can show not only the stat, but how do we keep our police officers safe, and specifically in the city of San Jose. Not only that, we have 300 days of sunshine on top of that. And I think we can get better recruitment. We have to keep blaming on the cultural things. We just got to think out of the box and what entices people more to become a police officer, especially in the Asian community, and I understand that. Well, anyway, thank you for everything that you do, and I think it starts from the top down, right? From our councils to the leadership, and it filtered down to our employees and out to the community, that if we highly believe and highly support our police department, it'll filter down, and therefore the recruitment would be easier. Especially, I know we're competing with many other departments, but I know we stand out to be one of the best and one of the top right here in the Bay Area. So continue the good work. Thank you.
Thank you for all those comments. We have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote. I think you have it on your screen now. Okay, vote to accept the report. I think it was unanimous. Thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to item number 3, which is Crime Prevention Status Report. We have Sandra Garcia, Crime Prevention Supervisor, and Captain Brian Spears. And I suspect the Chief's going to come up as well, it seems. Or maybe not.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, committee members, and members of the public. My name is Sandra Garcia, the Supervisor for the Crime Prevention Unit for the San Jose Police Department. I am joined here today by my captain, Captain Spears, from the Support Services Division, and Nancy Reda from she's our Crime Prevention Specialist. The memo before you is the annual report of the crime prevention's work and provides a review of current fiscal year accomplishments and summarizes efforts and endeavors. Oops. The Crime Prevention Unit promotes community partnerships by bringing safety education, training, and engagement activities to residents who live, work, worship, and study in the city of San Jose, as well as support our Bureau of Field Operations, or Patrol. The Crime Prevention Unit, or CPU, falls under the strategic plan's objective to enhance and promote crime prevention resources, efforts, and programs. During fiscal year 2023 to 2024, the CPU provided 267 community presentations, which included topics on workplace safety, personal safety, and neighborhood watch. Approximately 7,500 San Jose residents attended these presentations, with neighborhood watch presentations being the most popular, with 1,440 residents in attendance. As you see in the slide, our presentations range from bullying for school-age youth to workplace safety for adults and local businesses. Our school-age presentations reached a total of over 29,000 students from throughout all of San Jose. All of our presentations are available and provided in Spanish, English, and Vietnamese. We also provide special projects such as National Night Out, which was a success once again with 140 events last fiscal year and 160 events this fiscal year. We also operate Operation Frozen Treats, or the ice cream truck, and we manage the Camera Archive Mapping Program, or CAM program. Also, in alignment with the San Jose Opioid Response Fund, the Crime Prevention Unit provides fentanyl awareness presentation. We also collaborate with various units within our department, such as the traffic unit, to deter drinking under the influence with the Know Your Limits program. Additionally, we provide outreach to small business owners on safety awareness presentations such as human trafficking and how to report crime, with a focus on assisting and promoting vendor permits. For future endeavors, we are committed to enhancing our services to the residents of San Jose. We are in the process of training 4 additional crime prevention specialists to better serve the community equitably, and as part of our efforts, we are expanding CAM program workshops to increase registry participation and improve enrollment figures. Additionally, we will continue to provide ongoing fentanyl awareness presentations and Narcan distributions for adult presentations and residents. We are also strengthening partnerships with businesses across San Jose by offering free camera distribution and workplace safety and violence prevention training. To further support community policing, we will enhance collaborations with other department units to proactively and equitably deliver crime prevention workshops. Our outreach efforts will continue to include police practice presentations aimed at building relationships with new residents from other communities and countries. We will also persist in our education efforts with small business owners, focusing on assisting unpermitted vendors in obtaining proper permits. Also, we will continue to promote community engagement with the ice cream truck. And with that, we have a video made from a student from James Lick High School in appreciation of our visit. I apologize. It was working when we did our run-through earlier. So I now graciously request that the committee accept the annual report on crime prevention, and I'm happy to take any questions from the committee members that you may have.
Thank you for the presentation, great video. We have any comment from the public?
We have no public comment.
Okay, no public comment, okay. I see some folks have some questions. I'll just start off just by, it's not a question, it's more of a comment, but I've been here about 8 years as a council member, and I've seen you guys in action in many different spaces, especially District 2. I just want to say that I very much appreciate all the work that you've done. I think those very, I'll just call them soft touches with the community and seeing a different sort of face, whether it be the ice cream truck or many of the staff members that have gone out and done presentations to businesses, to neighborhood associations. I think it all really makes a big difference and really, I think, for many people frames the police department a little differently, and I think it helps sort of perpetuate all the good things that you all continue to do for the community. And so I just wanted to say I appreciate that. So first I have Councilmember Batra that has some comments.
Need to get that? Okay, now we're ready. Thank you very much for that report, and it is definitely a very positive report because you come in there when there is no problem. When you're called upon, the other people in the police department, when they come in, they're coming there when there's a problem, there's an anger, frustration. You come in there to avoid those things happening in our community, and hence your purpose and your timing is much appreciated. You're received much better, okay? Treated much better. And when you put the ice cream out there, that obviously makes you extremely popular, okay? Now, I have personally made sure that our District 10 residents get their fair share of ice cream. So I invited your truck to be there on our concert number 4, the summer concert. And that really made the concert very sweet, okay? So thank you for doing that. I think the portion which I like about it is the message which I've been trying to send to the community. The police officers are there to do a job to keep us safe, but they are like the rest of us. So I want to be seeing them in that light. And when I invited them to the concert and bring the ice cream, it made that awareness and friendliness that they're walking around with the rest of the community like other community members. And I think it builds a more trust, and they see the police in a different light. And I find that the Crime Watch program of yours, camera program, all of those, we can't tell how many places it might have helped us, because what you prevent, you don't know, okay? But feedback which I have, personal and of the community, I think this is the right program. It needs to go on, it needs to be bigger, better, and prevent the community from any of those untoward incidents. With that, I thank you for doing what you've done, and also I move to accept the report.
Yeah, there's a motion and a second. I think Councilmember Torres has some thoughts.
I'm not taking 10 minutes, okay? I promise. I just want to say thank you so much to our crime prevention department program. It's very important. I know that my office has, or myself and my team and crime prevention have coordinated to do business watch meetings and neighborhood watch meetings, and thank you for that. And also thank you for helping us with the vendor situation. Unfortunately, it's getting bad out there, especially since there's a lot of factors involved when it comes to street vending. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. We have Vice Mayor Kamei.
I also want to thank you and your staff. They're absolutely wonderful, even in situations where I had a neighborhood watch meeting, and it was we thought it was going to be just the regular neighborhood watch, we had a huge crowd. And unfortunately, I had 2 meetings, and I was kind of coming, saying hello and going, and my staff person and the neighborhood watch person stayed, and there were other issues. And, sometimes, I thought, oh, neighborhood watch, oh, nice crowd, right? It didn't come up while I was there, but the minute that I left, the community started to say, oh, and this, and the police, and here, and there, and da-da-da-da-da. They dealt with it professionally, and, I think that I appreciated it, the community appreciated it. It wasn't the venue to, do all of that, and yet, they gave their information, and it worked out. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you if you could just extend it to your staff for all they do, because it's so, so important. And I would agree with my colleagues, that ice cream truck, it is the best. So I think that it is a different way of looking at, PD, and I think that we welcome all of the work, the wonderful work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you. We have Councilmember Ridwan.
Thank you, Chair. Just resounding the thanks from all of us. Prevention is a huge part of our community, and I see it in Neighborhood Watch, and I see that our officers out there taking extra steps to engage with the community, especially out there on National Night Out, and I really appreciate that. And I would hope someday that we'll have funding just like Beverly Hills. So any calls come in, we can have the drone eye in the sky right there before the officer get there. And same thing with prevention, right? We can show that we can do so much more than just talking about it. And I know that you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for all the comments. We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, it's accepted. Thank you so much for the presentation. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to open forum. Do we have any public speakers?
We have no public comment.
Okay. All right. Well, before we adjourn the meeting, I just want to say thanks to Lee Wilcox for his joining us up here. I've been on the committee for, I think, the full 8 years when Raul was chairing it and stuff, and you've been hanging out with us for a while, so I just want to extend a deep appreciation for your knowledge and support of the committee. So thank you. Appreciate it. And the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.